mystery guest. Miles Brown, the Fab, one and only Ice Cube. So we know you're a huge Dubs fan. How many games does it take them to get it done?
I think I'll give him 5 games.
Warriors in 5, man.
I ain't leaving power to go on Empire.
Ah!
I respect LeBron. He's a beast. Jordan, he's 6-0. End of conversation.
James Harden's curse is lifted.
Oh! What? Oh, breaking news.
You ready for this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go with KD.
But left pressure on KD. What has happened to you?
Is this first take a hot seat?
I think you two have got a little bit to talk about.
I'm always...
For you. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
We had so much fun. Welcome into First Take on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Clearly, we are back from our finals road trip. Molly Karam here in Bristol. Max and Stephen A. is in NYC. Max still out west. Morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Fantastic.
Lot to get into today, as always.
Yes,
Let's do
sir.
it.
All right, let's do it, gentlemen. So after losing his 5th NBA Finals, LeBron had some thoughts on super teams. Take a listen.
I don't believe I've played for a super team. I don't believe in that.
Okay.
I don't believe we're a super team here. So no, I don't. You guys want one more question before I leave and not see you guys for a long time?
LBJ says he has not played on a super team. Sass, talk to me.
Well, of course he's lying. I mean, you know, he told on himself because he said, I don't believe, you know, in the super teams. And then in the very next sentence, he says, I believe I have a super team here. So clearly he recognizes that there are super teams that exist because he thinks he's on one, despite the fact that the super team just lost, if you're listening to him. Here's what I think that he's trying to dissect. I think he's trying to dissect the difference between himself and Kevin Durant because he wants to highlight now that the series is over, that the finals is over, and he gets an opportunity to address this with some degree of candor that he may have been lacking in the past. I think it's one of those things where he's trying to, for once and for all, really put an end to the comparisons between himself and Kevin Durant in terms of the adopted situations that they ended up in. LeBron when he went to South Beach, Kevin Durant when he went to the Bay Area. And I don't blame him for that because it's not the same. And let me say it for one last time. LeBron James went to Miami Heat squad that had been bounced out in the first round the previous season that also did not have Chris Bosh. And as a result, Dwayne Wade hadn't played with either one of them. LeBron James hadn't played with either one of them. Chris Bosh hadn't played with either one of them, along with a bevy of other individuals that were on the team. That was put together by Dwayne Wade and Pat Riley. They put it together. They implemented a system in concert with Eric Spoelstra and others. And as a result, they ultimately executed and went to 4 straight NBA Finals and won 2 of those titles. In the case of Kevin Durant joined a well-oiled machine that was fresh off a 73-9 all-time single-season record. They went to back-to-back NBA Finals, and Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, the Splash Brothers, the greatest shooting backcourt we had ever seen, combined with Draymond, combined with Iguodala, combined with Sean Livingston, they had all played together. So it was really just a matter of Kevin Durant ingratiating himself into that culture, that system, and that team. And due to his selflessness, combined with his greatness, we all knew that it was something that could conceivably be done immediately. In the case of LeBron James in Miami and those boys, that clearly was not the case, evidenced by them losing in the finals to the Dallas Mavericks, and that was that.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't the case in year 1, but LeBron was together with those guys for 4 years, and by year 2, it is the case. What's the real difference here? First, has LeBron played on a super team? Duh, of course. If LeBron James is playing with 2 other current all-stars, that's a super team because of his presence. You talk about the fact that Miami was a mediocre team before he got there, Stephen A. Obviously, if you add LeBron James to a mediocre team, you're going to have an excellent team. If you add LeBron James and another prime, unselfish all-star like Chris Bosh, who was the centerpiece offensively and defensively for a playoff team in Toronto and was willing to sacrifice numbers because he's just a great player to play with LeBron in Miami, if LeBron makes a mediocre team really, really good, you add another all-star like that, they're going to be great. And they were great. Because it was a super team. That's how it is. That's how good LeBron is. And that Magic and Bird documentary, Best of Enemies, which aired last night on ESPN and was excellent, by the way. Larry Bird gets to Boston. A bad team, 29-win team, wins 60 games the next year, 61 games. Why? Because they just got Larry Bird. So that's what happens when you add LeBron James to a team that has an all-star and you add another all-star. What's the difference between him and Kevin Durant? Really, Stephen A? Because if you were talking about one season, again, you'd be right. But they were together for 4 seasons. So by season 2, that other stuff doesn't wash anymore, particularly if they're well coached. And LeBron has been well coached by Eric Spoelstra, and he's been well coached by Ty Lue, particularly if they have competent front offices, which was the case in Miami and which is now the case in Cleveland. Particularly when LeBron James's presence means you get veterans to sign, good players to sign for less than they're worth because they want to have a chance to win a championship. Mike Miller, Ray Allen, etc. That's what happens. That's the LeBron James effect. The difference between LeBron and Kevin Durant, as you mentioned, is by Durant joining a team that already existed, you don't have to take anything away in a trade. He simply signed. And they already have the bench set up, the starters set up. They've already played together. You just have to integrate the one piece. Really what we're saying is Kevin Durant took LeBron James's super team blueprint and improved upon it. Rather than bringing one together and then needing a year or 2 to work on it, Durant simply slid himself right into that situation. LeBron has 2 options now. He can either do the same thing and eventually beat Durant, say in San Antonio, or he can continually run into the Golden State Warriors, which are at the moment a brick wall because Kevin Durant took LeBron James's super team blueprint, improved on it, and he's on a super duper team.
Yeah, but the reality is clear. Number one, we're talking about year 1 because that's all that we have on Kevin Durant's resume in Golden State. What's going to be is something we can address at a later date, but LeBron James gave that question, answered that question in the immediate aftermath of losing the NBA Finals on Monday night, which was year 1 of Kevin Durant in Golden State. So bringing up LeBron James and saying he had 4 years, we're talking about the first year. That's number 1. Number 2, you brought up the comparisons between, what Kevin Durant inherited in Golden State, what LeBron walked into. Eric Spoelstra had never coached out of the first round at the time that LeBron James had arrived there. I believe he only had like 1 year under his belt or so at the time that LeBron James arrived. So when you look at it 1 or 2 years, so when you look at it from that perspective, it wasn't Steve Kerr's resume, who not only was a 5-time champion as a player, but was already an NBA champion as a head coach 2 seasons earlier. And then the very next year, he went back to the NBA Finals. So there was loads and loads, not to mention the fact that he was a former GM in the NBA in Phoenix with Mike D'Antoni and all of those guys when they had Nash and Stoudemire and Joe Johnson and all of these other guys. So the extensive level of experience that Steve Kerr had, okay, clearly eclipsed that of Eric Spoelstra, which means that you had a culture that was in place that Kevin Durant was also walking into, which was incredibly advantageous to compare to what LeBron walked into.
LeBron didn't just get to walk into a super team, but the issue is not, as you said, just year 1. LeBron didn't say, hey, I've never been on a super team year 1. LeBron wasn't talking about Durant's situation. He's talking about himself. He said, I've never played on a super team. He has played on super teams. He created them. He created one in Miami. Even if you want to argue it wasn't until year 2, that's fine. In 4 years, they went to 4 consecutive finals. They won 2 championships. He then went to Cleveland, did the exact same thing. Been there 3 years, went to 3 consecutive championships, and won 1. And the only, well, not the only reason, but perhaps the reason he didn't win 2, because he had his work cut out even last year before Durant got to Golden State. They barely beat Golden State. The reason he hasn't won more is because Durant improved on his design. But to say LeBron's never played on a super team, first of all, in the Olympics he played on a super team. Even if you want to just limit it to the NBA, he's played on 2 separate franchises, each which had dynastic super teams.
Now you know good and
final trip after final.
That's where you get annoying. That's where you get annoying. You know good and damn well he wasn't talking about the Olympics. Come on,
was Miami
now.
a super team?
I mean, who doesn't know? Like, you don't think LeBron think he was on a super team when he was playing against Angola or Spain or somebody? Stop.
Yeah, but
we know he wasn't talking about the Olympics.
Fine, the proof that he plays on a super team in the NBA is the Cavs just turned the Eastern Conference into Angola. The Eastern Conference couldn't get a whiff of the Cavs, so clearly they're a super team. It's just that they ran into an even better one.
I think that what you have a situation, I think what LeBron is trying to say is that, excuse me, I might be super, but when Kevin Durant had won a title, if he was under the same circumstances that I ended up adopting, would he have been as successful? Would any other player have been as successful as I was if they did what I did? I think that's what LeBron James is trying to say.
Yeah, and he's right about that. By the way, the fact that the Golden State Warriors exist in the form that they do, the fact that the stakes have raised, that Adam Silver says, hey, make more great teams, don't tell the Warriors to get worse, that is all a tribute to LeBron James. LeBron is so great that even when they were outgunned in the previous season, they somehow won the championship because of LeBron James. And when the other players saw that, they said, got to get that guy, got to join forces. We got to add maybe the second best player in the world. Some are arguing the best right now in Kevin Durant to the 73-win team in order to overcome that guy. What LeBron maybe doesn't understand is LeBron, you plus 2 All-Stars, super team every time.
Yeah, but let's keep in mind the Warriors had 1 more. Of course, they had 4 All-Stars. Both those teams had 3. So there's levels to these super teams, gentlemen. But let's talk about a guy who Kevin Durant left an All-Star. So first there was KD leaving Russell Westbrook for the All-Star Lace Warriors we just discussed. Then there was the way he left without a phone call. Now KD's a champion and a Finals MVP. So KD's got a ring. Max, how should Westbrook feel about it?
Yes,
well, I think first of all,
oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
I think Westbrook. I think it's a situation where Westbrook really has to look in the mirror. In a couple of weeks or so, he's probably going to be crowned league MVP, and those individual awards are things that he's clearly deserving of. He is a superstar talent, one of the top 5 talents in the entire NBA, as far as I'm concerned. His athleticism is off the charts. He's the most athletic point guard we've ever seen in NBA history. But clearly, without it being said, the knock on him was you couldn't win with him even if you were Kevin Durant, because as Matt Barnes was once quoted as saying to KD, the only person that can stop you is Russell Westbrook. And so if you're Russell Westbrook, you have to look in the mirror now more so than ever before, particularly because Kevin Durant is now a champion. Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors and then winning the championship with Kevin Durant performing the way that he did, it wasn't just because of his greatness. It was because of teammates who didn't mind him being great and stepping forward and taking the bull by the horn and being that alpha male when necessary. And Kevin Durant, if he never was it before, he clearly was that dude for the Golden State Warriors in these NBA Finals. And so as a result, that transitions the pressure to Russell Westbrook, who now has to look in the mirror and he has to reflect in certain ways, guys. And I happen to know that Russell Westbrook still harbors hard feelings towards people like Irving Magic Johnson, who was working for our network during the finals 5 years ago when he called a 40-plus point explosion by Russell Westbrook one of the worst performances by a point guard he had ever seen, because he pointed towards Russell Westbrook's selfishness in not getting others the ball. I thought that was a bad performance, as well as Magic Johnson. But it was just a performance in that particular game. It doesn't take anything away from the greatness of Russell Westbrook. What happens is I'm told that Russell Westbrook still harbors hard feelings towards a Magic Johnson and others because they had those opinions years ago. He's a different kind